Mr. Rabah, can you help us dissect that a little bit further, especially when it comes to the last point of, well, even though there hasn't been direct involvement as of yet, things seem to be going that way, especially with Israel activating reserve troops for the conflict in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. Are we looking at a possibility of an all-out war?
Well, one has to define what is an all-out war. I think what the Lebanese are experiencing now is nothing less than an all-out war. However, people tend to be stuck in history. People are always looking back at the 1982 invasion, Israeli invasion of Lebanon, or the 2006 war, and they're actually waiting for the land invasion. Because as long as they don't see Israeli boots on the ground on Lebanese territory, they believe that war is not at their doorstep. Regardless of what's happening and how Hezbollah are trying to retaliate and to quote-unquote hurt Israel, I think that the destruction that the Israelis have wreaked in the south of Lebanon by destroying entire villages and driving out around 100,000 displaced Lebanese is enough proof that war is here. The issue is, and we need to explain to people that this idea that there is a kind of a clear dichotomy between Iran and Hezbollah is unfounded. Hezbollah is part and parcel of the Revolutionary Guard, and it fights on behalf of Iran. So although we don't see Iran directly fighting, it is there through Hezbollah. And I think ultimately what Netanyahu wants to do is he wants to implicate Iran in a total war and to get the international community to fight on his behalf. This idea that the Americans will stand idle if Iran gets involved is unfounded, because ultimately if Iran does use any of its quote-unquote more accurate weapons, we are looking at NATO and the international community all coming to the aid of Israel. The most devastating part here, that this war in Lebanon is uncalled for, meaning that when Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, decided to engage Israel in war on 8th of October, almost a year ago, he said ultimately he wanted to support the people of Gaza. We see that the people of Gaza have been killed by the Israelis, and now the Israelis have moved to address the so-called Hezbollah challenge. At the end of the day, one of the main reasons why Lebanon and the Lebanese people are dying is because both Netanyahu and Iran are trying to cash out on the blood of the innocent, be it Israelis or Lebanese.
All right, situation seems very, very tense right there. And drawing back to what Martin mentioned earlier, the IDF claims that they are striking preemptively for the purpose of deterrence. So, Mr. Rabah, do you think that that's a founded argument to make, or did the attempt at deterrence actually brought up more escalation? And is deterrence the actual purpose behind these preemptive strikes?
Well, I don't think that we can talk about deterrence anymore, because ultimately Israel has the ability to strike at will. The issue here is that there is a kind of absence of any kind of political thinking or a diplomatic way out of this quagmire. Ultimately, one uses weapons in order to transform them into concrete political gains. On the side of Netanyahu is hoping that by playing out the clock in a way, and by saying ultimately that he only wants to return the Israelis of the north to their villages, he can, with enough time, destroy Hezbollah's infrastructure. If Hezbollah's military infrastructure is destroyed, the problems of Lebanon will not go away, because the fact that Lebanon has been hegemonized by Iran will ultimately lead to more and more chaos. And whatever he decides to do, Netanyahu, he needs to have a political plan in mind. First of all, he has to address one of the main grievances with Iran and Nasrallah and Hezbollah use to dominate Lebanon, which is basically the Palestinian cause. If he believes that all of his political problems will simply go away through the tip of the sword, I think that he is really, really far from achieving anything. He will be able to stay in power, definitely, but we have a major problem that as long as Iran has the ability to disrupt and to spoil, we are only buying more time to reach a place where more devastation and more bloodshed will be normalized.